Now, Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon.
Welcome to this episode of Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon, my third episode this week, which, I know my farewell tour is not doing so well. In fact, listen, it is sponsored by some of the greatest bands in history, Scorpions, Kiss, Judas Priest, Thunder, Ozzy, The Who, Motley Crue, Black Sabbath, and Status Quo. So if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. And I think like all those bands, you step away with good intentions, and then you go, man, I miss doing this. So I am back here for some heavy metal shuffle, and I have got Victor Langen of great Canadian band Kick-Axe. Now, Kick-Axe, man, they were signed by Spencer Proffer, the wonderful man that brought you Quiet Riot back in the day, which some could argue were the genesis of the Sunset Strip. You know, if Quiet Riot hadn't got popular and if that album hadn't gone to number one, would we have had the 80s as we know them with Poison and Motley Crue? Would record companies have run out and signed all those bands? Some say no. So Spencer, I guess, gave us the Sunset Strip and Hair Nation and Hair Metal, or whatever you want to call it. Now, and by the way, Spencer was tapped to do the first Guns N' Roses record. And show co-host and friend Alan Niven said, not going to happen. Over my dead body. And so we never got Spencer touching the Guns N' Roses camp. You know, good. Anyway, Victor and I, we discuss all things Kick-Axe, what went right, what went wrong. And of course, we touch upon all our great buddies in the Canadian music scene, from Loverboy to Helix to the Killer Dwarfs to Honeymoon Suite, and so on and so forth. I have always supported music, and I have, of course, always been a homer and have supported the local bands and the local scene. And by local, I mean, you know, coast to coast, 3,000 kilometers, whatever. But, listen, there was a lot of great Canadian music, which, other territories never really got to see. Growing up here, we got to see Gowan and Honeymoon Suite and Bryan Adams in his development and all that. Now, of course, mind you, there's a lot of great American bands that never really had a lot of airplay up here. Now, I did get to become a Rat fan, for example, but Rat wasn't really shown on TV up here, and they never really played up here. I think they did one show at the Maple Leaf Gardens, and then they did a bunch of opening slots, but they never really toured. Like when they were a major arena act with Bon Jovi and stuff opening, they weren't coming up here. So, listen, it's a half empty, half full kind of thing. But let us talk Kick-Axe. Great band. Should have been, could have been, would have been. It didn't work out, but they are back. They reformed in the early 2000s, put out an album in 2004. Haven't put out anything else since 2004, mind you. It's been 16 years, so maybe a new album is in order, or a live package or something, just to let the fans know that there's still some creativity going on. But without further ado, here is, from a great kick-ass band, it is Kick-Asses, or Kick-Axes. That's hard to say back to back. It is Kick-Axes, Victor Langen. We are speaking with Victor Langen of the band Kick-Axe, or should I say the great Canadian band Kick-Axe. And as we say in Montreal, bonjour. How are you?
I'm doing great, Mitch. Great to hear from you.
Yeah, and what folks don't know is that we're covering the country today. Well, I'm in Montreal on the East Coast, and he's out in Vancouver on the West Coast. So we've got the whole country at our feet today.
Yeah, beautiful Montreal. Wish I was there, but it's a beautiful day in Vancouver too, just to get the weather out of the way.
Yeah, that's how I start every episode. I always go, so it's 4 degrees and sunny. How is it where you are? No, I'm kidding. But and by the way, it's not 4 degrees. It's a lot warmer. But I want to talk about Kick-Axe and the Canadian scene in bands, because listen, I'm going to name drop folks, and I know everybody loves when I do that. But I'm very good friends with Russ Dwarf of the Killer Dwarfs. I'm very good friends with Brian of Helix, Derry, and Johnny of Honeymoon Suite. But I've never sort of been around the Kick-Axe camp, and so this is exciting too, because this is one of these bands that has been around for many, 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 many years, and still going strong. Victor, why have we not met along the way? That's what I want to know. That's question number one. Why are you not coming to the East Coast more often?
That's the number one question. Number one question is whatever happened to Kick-Axe, but that's always asked by people in the East. Well, yeah, I don't know. We don't need a passport to come East. It just doesn't seem to happen. We've made the attempts. We used to play out that way a lot. Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, Hull. The Kitchener-Waterloo belt there. It just, in fact, I'll get this out of the way. We were planning for 2020 as to where we would spearhead for the East. We wanted to go all the way to Nova Scotia, and God bless those folks. But, then COVID hit, so here we are. We're sitting, but we got some irons in the fire, and we were planning that for 2020, and now we got to wait.
Yeah, you got to wait. So okay. So I mentioned some of those great Canadian bands, the Helix and the Honeymoon Suite and the Killer Dwarves. Talk to me about what sort of went on with Kick-Axe, because you get signed by the one and only Spencer Proffer. Mm-hmm. And we expect the band to get to this next level, to be in the pantheons with your Judas Priests and your Iron Maidens and all this. And then by 1988, it's sort of all done. Of course, there's a reunion tour 15 years later, but talk to me about what went right and what went wrong. And I know that's sort of the big question, but let's start with that, because when you've got Spencer, who gave us Quiet Riot, and who gave us Come On, Feel the Noise, and who gave us, essentially, with that Quiet Riot album, the Sunset Strip and the beginning of 80s hair metal. And I know people hate that term, but listen, it's a descriptor and it describes the situation. How did you meet Spencer, and where did it go right, and then when did it sort of take a left turn that you just went, what the fuck?
Well, let's just say we were based, we originally started out in the middle of Canada, a little old Regina, Saskatchewan, the city that rhymes with fun. We started there. We came to the West Coast and pounded our way to the top, let's say, amongst others. The whole scene out here with Headpins and Loverboy, Bryan Adams, all this sort of stuff. They all were getting signed, and so we went into little old Mushroom Studios, which legendary here in Vancouver, and recorded a demo. And we got our manager, I should mention, also managed Streetheart, prairie band from Winnipeg. And anyway, Streetheart had just completed a record down at Pasha Studios called Dancing with Danger. And so our manager had an in with Spencer. And right around the time Quiet Riot was starting to just rise up was when we got our demo tape from the Mushroom Studios into his hands. And he was intrigued by it all and flew up to see us in some scuzz bar, let's call it, in Edmonton, Alberta, during a blizzard, like minus 40. So, yeah, he flew up from Hollywood, saw us play for like 10 minutes, and just said, okay, I want you in Hollywood, November such and such, 1983. It was Grey Cup weekend. We remember that because we played a Grey Cup party before getting in the van and driving to Hollywood. But so 1983, late fall, and he flew up, watched us for all of 10 minutes, said, okay, we got a deal. And next thing you know, lo and behold, there we go.
There we go.
And and there was a connection, through Streetheart being there, and it got the wheels in motion, and we were his next thing. And as the weeks went by there, I believe his Quiet Riot guys were touring with Iron Maiden, is what I want to say, and went through the roof. And by the time we arrived in Hollywood, they had just gotten their certification as number one on Billboard. So that really got everybody fired up. We're thinking, oh my God, this is wonderful, a crazy roller coaster we're riding. But hey, I'm yakking on and on. I hope that answered the question.
It does. And I do want to ask you about this, because the Vancouver scene was very ripe back in that early 80s with Jim Valance and with Bryan Adams and Mike Reno and all those guys. a lot of them hung out at Little Mountain Studios, and you listen to albums by, whatever it's, Foreigner or Motley Crue or Night Ranger, and it's like, oh, Brian sang backing vocals on that. Oh, this. Were you part of that scene too, where you were sort of hanging around, and do you appear mysteriously on all kinds of albums?
No, we're not part of that crew. I got buddies out here that are guys like Mark LaFrance or.
Yeah, that's the guy.
Yeah,
I just interviewed Mark. He did all the Motley stuff.
Cool.
For crying out
loud. That's right. Yeah, Motley, Poison, I believe. Yeah, I was hanging around Little Mountain. I was, was part of the scene here, but it didn't do any singing or nothing. It would just be, take the guys over to the strip clubs, like the Bon Jovi boys. That's where they got Slippery When Wet, was from the shower at the number 5 Orange. But anyways, that's a whole other story.
Well, but hey, wait a minute.
Yeah.
A Bon Jovi story is always a good sell. So did you have a chance to hang out with John and Richie and those guys back then? And were you part of that?
Yeah.
Okay, so hold on. Let's go there, because let me tell you one thing. I've been doing this since 1996, and whenever I mention Guns N' Roses, Bon Jovi, Def Leppard, or Kiss, the numbers go through the roof. So talk to me about that. So Bon Jovi comes into Vancouver to do Slippery When Wet. And they go over to the what do you want to call it? The Peeler Club? I guess that's the polite way of putting it.
Yeah, that's what we call it.
and so what is Kick Axe's, boy, it's hard to say sometimes, association with Bon Jovi at that time?
I would I wasn't married at the time, so I knew a lot of these gals, and a lot of them were from back east, I should point out, Mitch, Montreal and Toronto girls coming out to Vancouver for the big bucks. And it was, there must have been 20 strip clubs, and 15 of them in downtown Vancouver at that time. And that's what when they got the guys, I can't remember, somebody, Bruce Fairbairn or somebody said, hey, I got to go pick these guys up at the airport, some boys from Jersey. So anyways, yeah, I had a little van and hanging around, just can't remember the exact details, but I got them in the van, and the first thing that they mentioned they wanted to do was, John wanted to know where the best Italian restaurant was, and then after that, they wanted to go to the legendary strip clubs. I think they had the same manager as Motley Crue at the time, so Motley had been here too, doing, what's that, Dr. Feelgood one too, that's kind of, and I knew, oh God, geez, now I'm name dropping, but when they were here doing that, that's how I got to know everybody at Little Mountain, because the Motley Crue guys were coming out to a club where I was running a jam night, and yeah, just one thing led to another. It's a little hazy, but so the Motley guys told the Bon Jovi boys about all these strip clubs where the girls take off all their clothes. And they were quite excited by such a possibility. So yeah, we hit a few, the Marble Arch and all the ones that Motley sings about, and Girls, Girls, Girls. That's what that song's about, the strip scene here. But anyways, now we're off topic, I bet.
No, I love this topic, because it dawns on me that the Slippery When Wet album title and cover is in some part due to you. so
well, I was just showing them around. That's all. And there's a glass enclosed shower at the number 5 Orange, one of the few survivors that is still open today, and it's a little worse for wear, but it's still there. The sign is still hanging in the shower. It's the same sign.
That is great.
Slippery When Wet.
Slippery When Wet. All right, so let me get away from that for a second and just ask you this
sure.
then. And then we'll get back to your band, I promise. But during that Slippery recording, were you in the studio at any time? Did you get a chance to see? Did you get a chance to hear anything? And then if you say yes, let me ask you some other questions.
Well, there was a run through of I'm a Cowboy. What's that now?
Wanted Dead or Alive.
Yeah. They're sitting in the lounge area with the couches, and Richie had the 12-string, and John had his 6er, and they're sort of strumming through that. And I was thinking to myself, geez, that's a damn good song they got going on here. And then it became what it became. But I saw the infancy of that one being born. That's about all. The other stuff I think was all pretty much packaged up by Fairburn. The Hit Factory stuff.
Well, listen, you can't go wrong with Bruce.
No.
He was, man. You look at that time in Vancouver with everybody there, with Jim and Brian and Bruce Allen and Bob Rock and Fairburn.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mikey Fraser, can't forget him.
Mike Fraser. It's and even Mark LaFrance, who's appearing on everybody's album with backing vocals, and what a hotbed of everything rock. It was remarkable because we don't really have that story about Montreal or Regina or Toronto. It really was that little concentration of just anyway. Whatever. Let's get on to Vices. So
sure.
you sit down with Pasha Records and Spencer, and you put out Vices. Now, is this one of these albums that you have been working on for, 10 years before you were working all these stuff out in the club, and then you get to the records thing and you put them down? Or is it Spencer sits you down and says, okay, boys, we got to write some songs? How did that one come together? Because to this day, you hear 30 Days in a Hole and some of this other stuff that you did, Alive and Kicking, Just Passing Through, and all these songs, still great. So talk to me about that, the genesis of that album.
Well, let's see, Mitch. It's a bit of both. Okay, put it this way. Heavy Metal Shuffle, which is probably our number one calling card song that everybody knows, whether, it just seems like everybody pins that to us first when they go, oh, I heard a Kick-Axe, that Heavy Metal Shuffle. Anyways, that song was the very first song we wrote as the core of the group, Larry Gilstrom and myself, and my brother was the drummer then, Gary. Way back in 1976, we wrote that song together, and it stayed pretty much intact. A few clip and cuts here and there by Spencer, let's stop. You know what I mean? Some producer stuff. But that song was the very first song we ever wrote as Kick-Axe, as basically teenagers. And then some other ones, we were hanging at Spencer's place in Beverly Hills, writing stuff like Just Passing Through. Vices, that song was written in his home studio. We'd hang out for the weekend in Beverly Hills. It was crazy. Weekend after weekend coming up with this stuff. All the Right Moves was another one. A little bit too LA glam scene for me, but it's still fun to play. We pull it out every now and then and play it live. But yeah, a lot of it Alive and Kicking, On the Road to Rock. We had worked those songs up on our own. Spencer just took them lock, stock, and barrel the way they were. Didn't touch it, didn't change words or just said, yeah, we're going with it.
So, all right. So then talk to me a little bit about the marketing push for it, because I remember I was sitting in my living room here in Montreal watching Much Music, Pepsi Power Hour, J.D. Roberts, Erica M., all these wonderful people. And they're pushing the heck out of it. Was Pasha and Spencer behind the band where they were giving you a big push and getting you on the headlines and on the opening slots of these big shows? And just talk to me about some of the marketing that went into it, because, the band, come 1988, you dissolve, and it just seems to me when you hear these albums that you should have been, so tell me about that.
Well, okay, first of all, we were quite young when a lot of this was going on, early 20s. All we cared about was, is there beer in the dressing room? Or, wow, we made it. There's beer in the dressing room. Great. Okay. But no, to get a little more serious, we were just focused on playing the music and trusting our manager, who was, well known here in Canada, Mr. Stratichuk, and he took Streetheart to great heights. And the marketing was with CBS Records out of Toronto, so everything was in good hands. USA was, Spencer himself was doing a lot of press, hyping us up as his next big thing, that he had high hopes. And I remember a lot of stuff going on. We were doing interviews for Japanese magazines, Brazil, Germany, Netherlands, all this stuff. We just did as we were told, let's say, for better or worse. Maybe we should have kept our eye on the business, but everything was about the music for us as young guys, just out to conquer the world. And yeah, it all went kind of sideways. It's a long story that's not worth getting into here, but there were some business issues on our manager's side of the fence that led to our demise, let's say. And to both us and Streetheart, we crashed and burned at that point there by 1986, 87. Things were starting to fall off, the wheels were coming off.
Yeah, which is too bad. Okay, so let me get into some of the other topics that are sort of classic topics to discuss. You get writing on a new album, and Spencer comes in. Now, this is how I've been told the story. So you're going to correct me and tell me where I'm wrong, and you're going to tell me where I'm right. But from what I understand,
sure.
You're writing these songs, and Spencer comes to you and says, "Man, those are great songs." And then a song like "Hunger," he hands it over to King Cobra, and you're like, "Wait a minute! Why are you handing my song over to him?" So tell me about that. Did they? Listen, I don't want to say steal your song because that's not necessarily correct. But did they sort of usurp your right to record your own song?
Well, here's how it worked in the fine print that we didn't, we should have had a lawyer maybe, but we were just so excited to be heading south instead of east and west across Canada. We were heading down the I-5 to Los Angeles, so we just said, let's do it. But here's how it worked, Mitch. We basically signed over our souls to the devil. Not saying, and I'm just saying as a figure of speech, we handed everything over, everything, publishing, control of everything, like how we comb our hair, you know what I mean? Or don't comb it, or
well, no, but listen, you make a joke.
It's all handed over.
But imaging is very important, and some managers will say, "Listen, we are going to craft your image from the way you wear your shoes to the way you cut your hair." So fans might think you're joking, but it does happen.
Oh, it was way more normal. It was standard issue then, man. Everything, like I think a lot of record companies had large shares in, hairspray companies and everything because everyone had to do it. And I'm sure my old buddy Russ Dwarf from Killer Doors could tell you much the same kind of stories about how we were controlled. But all the bands back then, Poison, everybody. But with Hunger, as you mentioned, a situation occurred while we were recording Vices. Spencer got this assignment to do. He had to do a film soundtrack for some sort of Animal House movie called Up the Creek, which that's where 30 Days in the Hole came in. He had us do that, but then. So we had a break doing Vices, and then he says, I'm going skiing in Aspen. Here's the keys to Pasha Studios. I'm giving you Hans-Peter Huber, the Swiss engineer, and he says, I want you to write me a bunch of songs because after you guys, I got Black Sabbath coming in. And we go, wow, cool. So he says he wants us young whippersnappers to write songs for Black Sabbath to make them more up to date. So we go, okay. So we did. Hunger was one of those songs. And there's a bunch of other ones. Blackie Lawless with Wasp took one of them, Wild in the Streets. And but he just plain out took it. He paid Spencer Proffer his Porsche payment for 6 months or something and then just walked away with it. But anyways, that's a whole other story.
Which I want to hear at some point, because you look at The Last Command writing credits, and Running Wild in the Street is credited to Blackie Lawless and Spencer, and you go, motherfuckers.
Spencer didn't write Spencer was skiing in Aspen, Colorado when that song was put together. On this weekend, he gave us the keys. So we wrote like 5-6 songs, and we're he's going, oh, this is great. Yes, this is all great. So. Yeah, we're thinking, okay, that's great. So we wrap up everything we're doing. We come back to Canada. Next thing we know, our manager's saying, hey, there's this band. We were doing some dates with Rat. We were in Nashville playing on some lake on a floating stage with Rat. And Carmine Appice rolls up. He's actually in Nashville and comes back. He goes, "Hey, I just want to tell you guys, I really loved those songs you guys laid down, and Spencer gave me the green light to take a few of them for my new project, King Cobra." I'm going, "What?" Nobody's telling us anything. But yeah, so he says, "Yeah, Hunger and Piece of the Rock are going on Ready to Strike or something." Anyways. So that's when we first started going, what's going on there? Because we were thinking, well, we get Black Sabbath had already fallen apart. Ian Gillan went back to Deep Purple, as history shows, to do Perfect Strangers, and that was that. So we figured, well, these songs are in the can down in Pasha. In the can meaning in the vault. Nope, Spencer is shopping them everywhere. And then Hunger, our demo version, ended up on the soundtrack for what do they call that? Transformers.
Yeah, the Transform. Okay, so let me stop you for a second because there's a lot of stuff
Sure.
that I want to cover.
I know it goes off in all directions, doesn't it?
Yeah, but that's great because it gives me a lot of directions to explore. And I will say this for the record: "Up the Creek," the song by Cheap Trick from that soundtrack, love it, love that song. But all right, so you're doing
it's great.
I'm up the creek. That's a great song. Anyway, you don't want me to sing. But so let me ask you this then. You're doing all this writing, and he's shown confidence in your ability. He says, okay, I want you to write for Tony Iommi and Ian Gillan, which even in 1983, 84, 85, they were certainly not schmoes. I mean, right? I mean, they were the guys.
God, they were gods to us.
Of course. and he says Wasp is going to take a song and King Cobra. So do you at some point say, okay, maybe this band thing's not for me. Maybe I should just settle down here on Sunset Boulevard and get a hotel or apartment and just be a songwriter? Because listen, you look at Jim Valance, which we mentioned. You look at Desmond Child, Holly Knight, all these people, Diane Warren. You know, they've made a killing just being a songwriter. So did you ever think, hey, maybe being in a band is not worth it? I could just sit and crank out these songs? Was that ever a consideration? Well,
I guess what it comes down to is that it was never about money. We never gave a second thought. Like I said earlier, as long as there's 96 beer in the dressing room, we're good to go. A pizza on top would be a bonus. Yeah, well, now we're in heaven. But yeah, it was always about,
I'll be booking your next Montreal show then. I'm going to book your next Montreal show. 96 beers and a pizza. We've got a deal. But all right, it's all about the show. Go on.
I don't know. It might be the sticking point why we don't have any bookings there yet. Maybe no promoters ready to go 96. But back then, it was just you thought you were going to do this forever. You thought it was your golden ticket for what you're doing with the rest of your life. But what do you know when you're 22, 23 years old, right? But there's some other things, other songs that trickled away. Another one, our demo of Nothing's Gonna Stand in Our Way. We had two songs on the Transformers thing. The Nothing's Gonna Stand in Our Way just flat out flew away. Ended up with someone else's name on it completely. But it was related to Pasha Studios. Like I say, the fine print. It was all in the fine print that we really had no rights to anything that we conjured up in the midst of Pasha. They owned it,
They got you. All right, so let me ask you this. The Transformer movies comes out. It has your song or songs on it. And CBS says, oh, no. This is a PG movie. You can't be called Kick-Axe because it sounds like Kick-Ass. And they change you to Spectre General. Now, that, as silly as it may sound, did you at any point give thought to maybe to play the game we need to change our name to something more PG? And when Spectre General hit, did you just say, well, fuck it, let's just go with this name?
Funny you mentioned that, Mitch. We were not told any of this stuff, that these songs were even coming out of the vault at Pasha to be put onto this thing, or that they had changed our name. We didn't know until the product was out, the movie was out, and the soundtracks being pitched, back when there used to be record stores and whatnot. But We weren't told a damn thing about it. Our manager never heard about it. It was just like, what? That's our song. What's going on? Spectre General, who are they though? But that's us. Why did they change the name? So yeah, I think they just made something up because the hearings were going on, where Dee Snider had to defend rock and roll, and all these people were going to Washington. All those cranky wives of senators and whatnot, the PMRC or whatever they're called. The attack was happening on the integrity of, rock was ruining the young people of the world or whatever it was. So yeah, Kick-Ass might have been a little edgier than it comes across as now. It's just kick ass, but yeah, that we knew nothing about it. No one ran it by us, and then I think they just came up with a smoke screen to say, "Oh yeah, it's too edgy." But we did think about it. We thought about, well, Christ, we got all this. If they would have used their name, Kick-Ass, it would have been that next step up. It would have been. There's no doubt about it.
There's no doubt about it. So let me ask you this, because I'm curious here, because yes, you signed a contract where they control everything. Rookie mistake. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But you what was I going to say? I lost my question.
That's okay. I do it all the time.
I know. You see what happens when we get older? You just lose stuff. But talk to me then a little bit about. I have completely gone blank. Give me 1 second here.
Well, we kind of just went off topic there about the name change thing, but yeah, there was contemplation about, well, Jesus, Spectre General's way bigger than Kick-Ass all of a sudden because of Transformers. Maybe we should jump on that. And then we thought, no, that's selling out.
It is selling out. But all right, so I remember my question now, because these question comes as we do this. But talk to me about all this control, and why was there this lack of communication with management? Because you appear on King Cobra, didn't know. You appear on Transformers, didn't know. They changed your name, you didn't know. You're on Last Command, you don't know. Why were you not? Listen, I know back then we didn't have text and email and stuff, but still we had phones. So why were you not getting a call going, hey bro, I got a great deal for your band? Why were you not getting the respect? That's the word.
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm thinking back to that day and age. I was usually the band liaison person to, whenever we'd stop at a truck stop while touring America, I'd go to the payphone booth while the bus driver fuels up, and I'd phone our manager. And if I got through, great, I'd get to talk to him. But yeah, he was in the dark, it seems, about a lot of these things too. It was just like, yeah, just keep playing. Like, I mean, we went from one tour to the next, to the next, to the next. There's, Judas Priest for 37 nights, then on to Whitesnake Quiet Riot for another 35, Scorpions, then Triumph. We did some Canadian dates. It was like, you didn't even know what city you're in, literally, just like in, some of these movies that you see about rock bands where they have to put the name of the city on the stage for everyone to know where they are. But yeah, there wasn't much chance. There was no texting, no email. I don't even think we had fax machines yet.
No, probably not. Okay, so normally I do about half an hour. We're there now, so let me just ask a few more questions and see where we go from here. So the band,
keep her down.
The band implodes, and I say that respectfully, but that's what happened.
It's a long story. Another chapter.
Another chapter. But in 2003, you get this itching to do it and come back. Talk to me about that, and how was that decision made? And let's go with that, and then I'll have another question for you right after.
Okay, Mitch, I'll keep it short on that. Yeah, what happened was CBS Sony decided to do a reissue of our first two Kick-Ass albums on Pasha, the Vices and the Welcome to the Club. And that all happened around 2000, 2001. And then they ended up selling out the initial run. They did a second run, and then we got contacted. I can't remember who it was because I didn't have the initial contact. Larry Gilstrom got the call about putting the band back together and doing some dates, like select dates: Los Angeles, New York, Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, that sort of thing for these reissues, because apparently they had pressed 5,000 and they would all just sell out. So we're going, never really thought about it. We'd all moved on to other things. A few of us, here in Vancouver, involved with the movie industry and whatnot. But anyways, so we figured, okay, we'll do it. And George, the singer, George Christian, couldn't commit to it because he had his mitts full with, our old tour manager started a record company called Network. And so they were promoting Sarah McLachlan and stuff, touring. And it's a long story. It's way too long to go on here. But yeah, that's how it happened. We were asked to get back together, and we waited several years for George to clear up his schedule, but it never did. And so we got a Regina boy, Danny Nargang, to take his spot. But anyways, yeah, there's probably a whole bunch of stuff I'm missing, but
right. No,
I
but we'll get to it. Okay, so then in 2000, so you got together basically to do sort of like a promo run for these two re-releases. That's the short version.
Yeah, and then other offers started coming in. So now here we are today doing these things. But yeah.
So then in 2004, you make a new album, Kick-Axe 4.
Yeah.
Wow. I can't believe you forgot your own album. But talk to me about that, and why is it in 2020 we're sitting here 16 years on and you haven't done any new music? Because obviously you're playing shows, and it sort of speaks to the point I sometimes make is, well, you don't really need new music if you have a catalog. You can just go and tour and put the name on the marquee, and fans will come. But as a creative person, don't you want to sort of say, hey, just before we wrap this up, just give it one last go and make one more whatever song?
Well, okay. Well, we are in the midst of that. The problem we have is we're although we live in the Vancouver area, we rarely see each other. We're kind of busy with what's going on, and now the whole world's changed. So once we're allowed out of isolation. No, we have recording facilities, two different studios amongst band members, like full on everything. Larry and Raymond have access to all this stuff and are quite active there. We have recorded stuff, Mitch, and it's just a matter of finishing it. And then we're probably our own worst critics. It's like, that's not good enough. No, it's not good enough. But whatever, we'll get it out there. It's now, that was all part of the thing when we came back from the Chris Jericho cruise at the end of January, before this dark cloud on the horizon, this COVID thing. We had stuff to go work on in the studio. Everyone cleared their schedules, and then bam, no can do. So everything's on pause. But yeah, you're right. You can just run on your back catalog, and it seems that that's what people really want anyways. But no, there's new stuff coming, and
but all right, so let me connect the two real quick here, and
okay.
But you're saying that you're in the process and you're going to make some new music and it'll be available soon, but you also say you can run on your back catalog. So when you're making a new album, then do you look back and say, okay, we have to make songs that sound like Vices and Welcome to the Club because that's what fans want from us? Or do you say, the heck with it, we've got new fans, new fan base, we've got a new singer, well, not new, he's been there 12 years or whatever, but still, do you say we just push the envelope and give them a 2020 version or 2021 version of Kick-Axe and we don't look back to 1984? How do you sort of put it together?
Well, yeah, we went that direction full on with the fourth album that we did in 2004, 2005, whenever it was actually hit the streets, but was recorded in 2004. We just went with a whole bunch of stuff that over the years, we were all writing, and holding on to stuff and then collaborating as well when we all got together. So we ended up with, I believe, 14 or 15 songs on that record. on that album, and we just went with it, and we got some backlash, from the diehards that just want to hear Heavy Metal Shuffle Part 2. You do face that. There is a backlash. It's kind of strange, and so
you can't win, and you can never win, because if you give them that song, if you give them Heavy Metal Shuffle Part 2, Part 3, Part 4, you'll have some fans that go, "Oh my God, you can count on it. I love it," and then you'll have other fans that go, "Oh, it's always the same thing. They never progress. They never do anything."
Exactly.
But then you do progress and you do something completely different, and they go, "Oh, it's not," and you're just like, "Oh, shut up."
well, yeah, but trust me, we're more than ready, willing, and able, and I'll throw in the word capable of delivering a really good kick-ass. Here we are in the roaring 20s, ready to go. So now we just got to wait for the all clear from the science people, like everybody else in the whole wide world. We can't do a damn thing right now. But we got irons in the fire. Let's go with that. And a lot of it will be very reminiscent of the good old days, the 80s, and there'll be some other stuff that expands upon the 80s.
Well, see, that's good to hear. And I'm going to throw that out there, and I'm sure you've thought of this, but the album needs to be called Spectre General. That's the title, right there. That's the title, right there.
I love it.
Yes, and you get some.
Did
cool
you just come up with that?
Yes, I did. I did. See,
well, I'll be putting that in my email to the boys here.
No, because think about it. You could do some great artwork with a general and all kinds of stuff, and you can have a Spectre General. There's a whole. The merch is unbelievable.
Okay. Well, you'll get credit for that concept. Careful what you wish for.
Yeah. Well, I'll take the credit, but you might as well, because the Spectre General played on you, so it's time for you to get revenge on that name and take it back anyway.
Hey, and maybe somebody will even crawl out of the woodwork and try to sue us for it, and then we can really clobber them. We'll find out who it is that did all this to us.
See, there you
Anyways,
go.
they're probably long gone, but I love the concept. Yeah, we're under a Spectre right now, aren't we?
We are, and yeah, actually. And I just think, listen, I'm just thinking of the T-shirt concepts. That's where the money is these days, and you've got some great T-shirts there. But let us leave it on that for today, because we've gone over the 30-minute mark, and this was, we're at 40 minutes. This was fantastic. I mean, this was fantastic.
Well, thank you, Mitch. It was a pleasure for me too. It's always great to come across someone that wants to talk about some things that woulda, coulda, shoulda been. But hey, I got no complaints.
It's never too late. It's never too late. And we need a Canadian Invasion tour with you guys, the Suite, Honeymoon Suite, and Helix and
the
Killer Dwarves. All four of you need to go out there and celebrate Canada, do some Canadian dates, do some American. I don't care what you do, but that would just be a fun night of some of the best musicians on stage. I mean, the way Daryl Dwarf plays the drums is fantastic. The way you guys do the stuff, Derry Green in Honeymoon Suite. I mean, he's Canada's Van Halen.
He's a monster.
So let's get that done. But this was great fun, and it's a shame that the business sort of chewed you up and spit you out. But you're still here, and you're still doing it. And it just goes to show that Canadians are a resilient bunch. We don't give up.
Nope, we're very resilient, and it's well, I don't know where to go from there, but we'll just wait out the storm here, the specter of COVID-19.
Yes.
Or if you're R. Kelly, COVID-11. But
yeah, I don't like COVID-19. I don't like COVID-19 very much. I much prefer.
Too old.
I much preferred 1 through 18. They were a lot better.
All right, that's a very bad tasting joke. I edit that one out, Mitch. But okay, I better let you fly, my friend. And it's such a pleasure to chat. And if we can do it again sometime, if you got room for some more chit chat.
Absolutely. And as we say in Montreal, merci. Have a good day.
All right, Mitch. Great pleasure talking to you.
Cheers.
This has been Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. For more exclusive content and interviews, subscribe on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, on YouTube, and many more. Follow Mitch on all the socials, especially Twitter, @Mitch Lafon, and on Instagram, @Mitch_Lafon. Get your Mitch merch now at loudtracks.com/Mitch.